The sad news of Val Kilmer's passing at the age of 65 struck a deep chord in Hollywood. Known for iconic roles such as Batman, Jim Morrison, and his unforgettable appearance in Top Gun, Kilmer's death brought not only mourning but a moment of reflection. He wasn't just an actor, he vanished into his characters, embodying them with intensity and heart. From the soulful portrayal of Jim Morrison to the gunslinging Doc Holliday, Kilmer gave everything to his craft. Yet, there was one role that remained elusive and weighed heavily on him: Batman. Before his passing, Kilmer finally opened up about his time as the Dark Knight in Batman Forever. It wasn't the criticism or industry pressure that haunted him, it was something deeper, a truth he had long been asked to keep hidden. "They made me hide this," he once confided to a close friend. It wasn't just about playing a superhero, it was about the toll it took, a dream turned prison, all beginning with the suit itself. In the mid-1990s, Gotham was changing. Michael Keaton had stepped away after Batman Returns, and with director Tim Burton also exiting, Warner Brothers wanted a new direction, something more vibrant, more marketable, and more appealing to younger audiences. Joel Schumacher was brought in with a flashier vision, colorful villains, and a brighter tone. Val Kilmer, although not the obvious choice, was brought on board. Fresh off critically acclaimed performances in The Doors and Tombstone, Kilmer had the intensity and charisma the studio wanted. He was trusted to embody the complex duality of Bruce Wayne, the grieving orphan, the stoic billionaire, the symbolic crusader. But the role came with enormous pressure. Kilmer wasn't just stepping into a character, he was stepping into a billion-dollar franchise machine. Beyond the movie, there were merchandise deals, fast food tie-ins, and global branding campaigns. For Warner Brothers, he wasn't only Batman, he was the face of a commercial empire. Still, Kilmer threw himself into the role with devotion. He accepted the part before even reading the script, relying on his faith in Schumacher, who had previously worked with him on The Saint. Kilmer approached the role with a Shakespearean seriousness, determined to uncover emotional depth and complexity. Yet, he soon realized the film demanded more spectacle than soul. The studio wanted a symbol, not a story. Despite the constraints, Batman Forever was a massive box office success, grossing over $300 million worldwide and revitalizing the franchise. On paper, Kilmer had delivered exactly what was expected. But behind the scenes, a different story unfolded, one of discomfort, isolation, and silent suffering. What the world didn't see was how the role began to drain him, not through physical action scenes or fame, but through something more subtle and suffocating: the suit. At first, the Batsuit was a symbol of victory for Kilmer, who had grown up idolizing superheroes. Seeing it under the studio lights brought a surge of pride, it was the ultimate dream come true. But the moment he put it on, everything changed. The suit, while stunning on screen, was a nightmare to wear. Weighing over 50 pounds and made of rigid rubber, it turned the role from fantasy to burden. The cowl restricted his head movement, the chest plate made breathing difficult, and the boots rendered his steps stiff and unnatural. With no ventilation, the suit trapped heat and sweat, leaving him exhausted and overheated by midday. The role, once a pinnacle, became a prison, one not of villains or plot lines, but of silence, discomfort, and a hidden weight no one saw. Wearing the Batsuit was more than physically demanding for Val Kilmer, it was emotionally suffocating. The heavy rubber suit muffled his voice and limited his movement so severely that he described it as acting from inside a coffin. He couldn't express emotion, connect with co-stars, or even hear clearly, leading to a deep sense of isolation. Though the costume looked impressive on screen and thrilled executives with its merchandise potential, Kilmer felt invisible within it. A moment that deeply affected him was when Warren Buffett visited the set with his grandchildren. As they eagerly gathered around, it became painfully clear they weren't speaking to Val, they were interacting with the suit. That was when he realized he wasn't playing Batman, he was merely wearing him. Despite the film's success and the global popularity of his image as the Caped Crusader, Kilmer felt hollow. The role that should have fulfilled a childhood dream instead drained him. He returned home each day physically exhausted and emotionally numb, his spirit crushed by the weight of expectation and silence. Eventually, when offered the sequel, he walked away, not out of arrogance, but because he could no longer bear being that voiceless, faceless figure. For the world, Batman Forever was a blockbuster. For Kilmer, it was a beautiful illusion that came at a personal cost, a dream that, once realized, left him desperate to wake up. Val Kilmer stepped into the role of Batman with high hopes, but the reality was far from what he imagined. Under intense pressure to please both a passionate fanbase and a profit-driven studio, every move was controlled, every smile rehearsed. Voicing any discomfort risked being labeled difficult, so he stayed silent, at a cost. The role became emotionally draining. The Batsuit, instead of empowering him, stripped away the spontaneity and emotional depth he loved as an actor. Each scene was built around how the suit moved, not how he acted. Though he endured the production with professionalism, when it ended, he walked away with a heavy heart. While Warner Brothers pushed for him to return in Batman and Robin, Kilmer quietly declined. The official reason was scheduling conflicts, but in truth, he had made a vow to never again lose himself for the sake of appearance. "I didn't quit Batman," he later said. "Batman quit me." Years passed, and while fans still saw him as the caped crusader, the role's emotional weight stayed with him. Only in his later years did he open up, not with bitterness, but honesty. His voice, weakened by illness, carried more strength than ever. "I loved Batman. I still do. But that suit, it taught me that dreams can come true, and still break you." His journey was made even harder by the shadow of Michael Keaton's legendary portrayal. Keaton's darker, brooding Batman had become iconic, and Kilmer was under immense pressure to measure up. Balancing Keaton's legacy with Schumacher's brighter vision was a task that left Kilmer both inspired and overwhelmed. Despite his efforts, the performance never truly felt like his own. He was living someone else's dream until he finally chose to reclaim his own. Working alongside bold and expressive actors like Jim Carrey, Tommy Lee Jones, and Nicole Kidman, Val Kilmer found himself at odds with the tone of Batman Forever. While his co-stars embraced the film's exaggerated energy, Carrey and Jones especially thriving in their flamboyant roles, Kilmer was physically and emotionally restricted by the stiff, suffocating Batsuit. His portrayal of Batman required subtlety and introspection, but the vibrant, over-the-top direction of the film often overshadowed that nuance. Despite the limitations, Kilmer tried to inject depth into Bruce Wayne, portraying him as a more vulnerable and reflective character. However, reactions were mixed. Some praised his emotional approach, while others longed for the darker intensity of previous portrayals. As time passed, Kilmer quietly stepped away from the Batman legacy, no longer wanting to live in the shadow of a role that had stripped away his artistic identity. He returned to the stage, choosing roles that allowed him to reconnect with his passion on his own terms. It wasn't until his battle with throat cancer that he began speaking openly about the experience, revealing how deeply the role had affected him. "I played Batman in a suit," he reflected, "but I never got to play Bruce Wayne. The costume, the brand, had consumed him, leaving little room for the man beneath." As his voice weakened, his truth grew stronger. Kilmer's vulnerability struck a chord with fans, showing that behind every superhero is a human being shaped, and sometimes scarred, by the roles they play. In the end, Kilmer's legacy wasn't defined by the bat symbol on his chest, but by the courage it took to reveal the man who wore it.